as a kid, what's the one thing that you'd want to do in life? For me, it was dirt bikes. If I could ride dirt bikes, didn't know what that looked like, didn't care about the money, the fame, none of that stuff. I just wanted to ride my dirt bike. It's like being Superman. Like you get the ability to fly, For that 1.5, 2 seconds you're in the air, that's how it is. You're weightless, you're free, you're flying, you're above everything, not a care in the world. Yeah, it's a surreal feeling.
I think when we met, I already knew what I was getting into. And so there was just always this dynamic of like, I love this man, so I'm just gonna support whatever he wants to do. Like, we're in it for the long haul. It wasn't new to me that he did that as a career. And so I knew, I would tell people, I'm like, I knew what I signed up for, Got married, moved, and then had our first baby. And it was like, well, we don't know anything else, so we're just gonna take her with us. And had another baby, and it was like, okay, well, now we're 2 babies deep. What is this gonna look like?
Boy, was it a journey filled with injuries, hardships, financial struggles. You get to something like X Games, and it's humbling. As a kid, when I first started dreaming up this dream of riding bikes, that's the pinnacle. I mean, that's the Olympics of our sport. And I thought, if I can just get there, if I can just get to that stage, that would be it. Like, I could say I've made it. I mean, you sit there before the lights and the cameras come up, before you're on TV, before you hit this just absolute climax, you can't help but just sit there and kind of have that moment of solitude of like, wow, like this is it. After that initial high wore off of, that week after competing, we're home, everything's kind of subsided. The text messages and Instagram messages from people that I didn't know congratulating me and wanting to be my best friend all of a sudden because I'm elevated on this platform kind of died down. And I got to this place where I just felt empty. I'm like, okay, I've got this cool medal that hangs on the wall. One of, let's just say a handful of guys in the world that are holding one of these things at this point, or are lucky enough to get to that stage and get on the podium and take one of these things home. And sitting there asking myself, like, why don't I feel joy? Like, I checked off the biggest thing on my bucket list that I ever had for my life, and yet I'm sitting here going, now what? Do I try to get bigger sponsors? Like, do I go for more medals? Do we need more money? What are we looking at here? And so that kind of just ensued just this downward spiral of like, we just go harder. We go harder. We go for more things, more stuff, more fame, more medals, more money.
We're out here like thinking that we're doing something awesome, but again, not really addressing like root things within our own life and marriage and health that eventually would like come to a head. I had already been like lightly dabbling in paganism and new age stuff like crazy really since I got out of college. So years of it, just here and there, bits and pieces, but then really heavily, like right before he started getting into X Games, really heavily, I was doing all kinds of stuff with witchcraft and tarot cards, like all the occult things. And that was our life here at home, was occult, everything. Universe, everything. It was crazy. I mean, like every shelf in this house had crystals. Before he would ride, I'd be like, I need to go see my tarot cards. I need to go, do what I'm doing, talk to the universe. I mean, the signs were all there that it was like, this is where you stop. This is where you don't keep pushing the envelope. And I was pushing. Nope, keep going, thinking like, I'm just, he's gonna get there. it was just like, that's all that we did. We lived and breathed motocross and raising our children in that. We had probably 9 or 10 events booked that year. It was supposed to be like the year that we made it with our business. I started hearing people talking about some virus, and all of them canceled. The phone calls just kept coming in. Insurance is dropping.
They deemed it being, because of this, we don't have to pay you, and so then at that point it was, well, how much do we have to live on? How do we make this work?
Yeah.
Maybe this only lasts a few months, and we just watched everything just start to kind of flatline from there.
Yeah.
At that point, we started questioning everything in life, and it was like the thread that just began to unravel. Everything that we'd worked towards, everything that we had built our family and our marriage and our life on was just the biggest rug pull you could imagine.
I have the language to articulate it now, but I didn't back then. In my spirit, I could feel this urgency and this desire to pray. And I remember asking the universe, asking the air, asking, like, what am I praying to? I don't even know what I'm gonna pray to. And at the time we had a greenhouse out there, and that was kind of like my space that I would go to just for quiet, solitude. And I remember walking out there, and that was the first place that I prayed. I remember waking up and I had this image of a cross in my mind. It was like those like metal fancy crosses people hang. I just kept seeing that, and I kept seeing it on this back wall behind me, like that needs to go there. And I'm thinking, why would I put that up? Like, I don't believe in God. I openly denounced God and the Bible. I would get on social media in all of my pride and arrogance, and just be like, God's not real. The Bible was written by man to control man. I'd heard that growing up. And so here I am, and I'm like, why am I having this symbolism in my mind, this desire to pray? And it was getting so loud I wanted to be on my knees. Looking back, I'm like, that is that ultimate practical, physical form of humility, to get before the Lord on my knees like that. And then there was a day we were outside and I was watching all of the kids play, and all of a sudden it was like everything clicked into HD. The wind blew by me and it felt different. The colors outside look different. And this is like probably 3.5 weeks into the shutdown in COVID. And I remember one of the things that stuck out to me was tucking the kids in bed. And I felt this peace I'd never felt in my entire life with our children. It was a patience I had never experienced because it was supernatural. It wasn't me just trying to be a better mom or trying to be patient. It was supernatural peace that came upon our home. At which point I couldn't bear it anymore. This went on for 2 weeks and I couldn't bear like what I was hiding and dealing with inside. And our marriage was like, so quickly after everything got pulled out from under us, he was angry. I didn't know how to deal with it. I put up the independent woman wall. And so he was like, I'm ready to just get divorced. Like, clearly our whole life is just a mess. What are we even doing? And he came in from outside. And we were standing at our kitchen island, and I looked at him and I just said, we need to talk. And what do you think?
Yeah, I walked in the door there. She said we need to talk, and I remember her stumbling over her words, not really knowing how to articulate it, and finally just blurted it out and just said, I think I believe in God. And I looked at her just like I'd seen a ghost, because it was a gut punch, but at the same time, like the biggest wave of relief, because I felt the exact same thing, and I had been feeling that exact same thing. And he just came in that moment and just wrapped us together, and things from there just started shifting and changing. Out of utter chaos, out of being in the pit, and there he was the entire time. I think back to all the times that we've been traveling on the road, or I've been alone, or in those hotel rooms with people doing horrible things, or moments I've crashed and sat in a hospital bed wondering, like, how am I okay right now? And he's been there the entire time, just waiting. And it got to the point where the knock on the door was so loud that you couldn't ignore it anymore. And so we opened the door and let him in.
That all or nothing mentality that we carried over. And so it was like, how many Bibles can we get our hands on? How many books can we read? How many people can we reach out to? How many more like holes can we go down? And we just went all in, like sold out, all or nothing. We'd gone down like so many rabbit holes, rabbit trails over the last decade of different things in the world and things that we believed. And it's so funny, I look back, Jesus was at the bottom of every hole. He's at the bottom of every single rabbit trail. And all that time I would just deny it.
I always joke because with everything going on in the world, like for some reason I was drawn to the book of Revelation. It was the first book of the Bible I picked up and started reading, read it front to back, and then started working my way back through the Gospels and everything, the New Testament and the Old Testament. But it literally was the quote unquote doom and gloom, the revelation of him that started it all for me.
We dove into a church, local church. We served our hearts out. You know, we did all the things right. We checked all the boxes. We got baptized, all awesome. But we still had not encountered the presence of the Lord, like in an intimacy. We still had no idea what was coming. Like, I look back and I like this just lights me up to talk about, because there's so much more. You know, I remember him going to Fort Worth and having an experience at the altar at Mercy Culture, traveling for work, and everything in our life changed from that point forward. Everything we knew as Christians, you know, a couple years in and loving the Lord, doing the things. My social media flipped from being this like crazy witch to, you know, like I love the Lord and he saved me and this is it. To like, whoa, there's a whole nother level of loving the Lord and living for him and being sold out for him that we haven't even touched yet. Started binging the sermons, started being discipled, started having tools that we didn't know existed, leadership we didn't know existed, and that's when things like really shifted in our home. We began to understand what daily encounters were, and life just changed, radically changed from that point on.
You know, so for me, like my career, yeah, it was this dream and this goal that I had as a kid, but it was also an escape. It was something to latch onto, an identity. And, you know, to be able to be in this place that we are now and realize that, take whatever I thought church or Christianity looked like, throw it out the window and realize that it's not religion, it's about relationship. It's about relationship with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And, you know, to go one further, he's alive. Like, he is the living God. And when you encounter him daily outside of a corporate encounter, and when you make it your emphasis and your focus day in and day out to just seek him, to build and work on that relationship, no different than our marriage or with our kids, or, you know, the relationship that we both lacked with our parents growing up. It's just, it's beautiful and it's everything. Like, it changes everything. Like, to be able to have a relationship with a living God, an all-knowing and all-caring God, a God that loves you for no reason.
You know, I think that people don't understand, like, New Age and witchcraft are not just some fun thing. And I think we hear pastors get made fun of a lot. You know, I've heard our pastors be chastised online all the time, you know, about how much they're talking about the demonic. And I'm like, I've seen the demonic. I've lived the demonic. I've been in the demonic. Those cards, those Ouija boards, those crystals, it's all demonic. It's all rooted in demonic worship. And I look around and I'm like, I've lived it. I've been there and I know that it's real, and it's so wild how people will walk in it and not acknowledge God. So we believe that there's demonic, we believe that there are these other spiritual entities and a spiritual realm, but because of our pride and whatever trauma, abandonment, issues that we have, we think we can just band-aid it. After watching sermons and beginning to understand, taking the assessment, taking the Connect with God assessment, that really did absolutely change my walk and my life. We hear it all the time from the platform. It's a game changer. And I'm like, it's a game changer. It changed my life because I did not know that I could connect with God in these other ways. I'm like, here's my Bible, and I'm just gonna keep reading it, and I'm just gonna keep praying and reading the Bible and praying. And those are beautiful things. But God was drawing me deeper, and there are moments I look back at now where I see his heart and his mind in my walk, but I did not know. Oh, that's reformation. That's movement. That's learning. Very beginning of my walk, it was like, that's how he drew me in, learning. I wanted to know everything. It's so hard for me to even go back to like what it was like to get radically saved, be a believer, kind of float through that stage with nothing, no tools, no leaders, no discipleship. But then boom, it's like, wait a minute, something is unlocked. And now I'm walking with the Lord daily. I feel his presence daily. My life has changed. I can't do anything without seeking him first, asking him first. Lord, what please you? What do you want in this? Do I go here? Do I go here? I mean, I ask him about everything.
There was a fire that was lit, and like Miranda said, like we're either all in or we're not. And if we're doing something, we're jumping in. And so we jumped in. We didn't know what it looked like. We didn't know where it would lead, but we knew that we at least had something, and that's all we needed. And it just became this absolute fearless pursuit of him.